This is Dateline News and Conversation. Well, the topic tonight, an update on Russia's daily massive missile strikes all across Ukraine. And we're going to talk about the power of resistance in the Middle East. My guest, he's returning, Don Hank from Panama. Don, welcome back to the show.
Hi, Regis. Good to see you again.
Yeah, always. You know, I've been getting your daily reports from, I think, since the very beginning. You've been on the show before.
Mm-hmm.
The report today wasn't unlike the reports of the last several days.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like you to clarify, for those who are watching, where do you get your information from? And then talk to me about these massive missile strikes, where they've been coming from.
Oh, am I on?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I get my information from Russia. I don't take any information from anywhere else, basically. But some of the Russian reports come from Ukraine. They have to use Ukrainian reports to see if they hit what they thought they were going to hit, what they were targeting. So that's where the reports come from. And it's all in Russian.
Okay. So I wanted to clarify that, first of all. You're not sitting there like a lot of people that comment from the States, not getting reports directly from Russia or Ukraine. You know several languages, including Russian, and you are able to understand and translate the reports that you're getting. So I wanted to make that clear. So tell me what's been happening lately, because I read your report every day. It's one of the first things I do. How long has this been going on? How long can it continue? And when is it going to put an end to the resistance in Ukraine?
Well, the massive strikes, there have always been strikes, but the massive strikes started on October 10, 2022, if I remember correctly. And that's when I started making my reports, but I didn't have this web page at the time. I didn't have Substack yet. I just sent these out to about 150 friends. And so that's when I started. When I got on, I don't remember when I actually got on Substack, but it wasn't until the March 22 when nobody knows exactly who it was, but when these Tajiks went to Crocus City Hall and shot the place up and then set fire to it. It wasn't until that when they really, really got PO'd and they decided we're going to go down hard on Ukraine. And so that their first strike was that very day. March 22 was the first massive strike in Ukraine. And they targeted, different kinds of targets. One kind would be, of course, places where military people are assembled. And another one would be the power utilities. In fact, I think the first strike may have been against that dam that they hit. That they and this is amazing. These missiles are so accurate, so precise that they were able to hit the powerhouse where they had the generator, but they didn't hit the dam itself. So there was no flood. That's pretty characteristics of the Russians. They don't they do the minimum of damage to civil structures, but there are other targets too as well. There the another that they will hit is the manufacturing plants for weapons and munitions and ammunition. Uh, they've hit a lot of those. Um,
So let me ask you this. How many missiles and drones is Russia firing each night and day? In your estimate, how many are they firing, and what are the types of missiles they're firing?
okay, there are several types of missiles, and it all depends on whether Russia thinks there are air defenses there that could take down the slower missiles. If they think there are air defenses there that could take down the slower missiles, they fire in the Kinjal, which is very, very fast. I think that's the fastest missile they have, or the Iskander, which is another hypersonic. They're both hypersonic, but the Kinjal is extremely fast. In fact, it's so fast that recently Ukraine reported that they couldn't even see it on the screen on the screen that's used to detect these missiles. Didn't show up. And the next thing you knew, kablam, something exploded. And of course, what's really strange, what's really funny about Zelensky and his crew, they like to say that they've shot down hypersonic missiles, which is, of course, impossible. You cannot shoot down, you can't intercept a hypersonic missile. As I said, one didn't even bother, it didn't even show up on the screen on the where they they use electromagnetic waves to which when it hits an object, it bounces back, and then you can see where the object is. And that didn't happen. Too fast. So Zelensky's really stupid. He thinks, I believe he really believes that you can hit with a Patriot air defense, for example, that you can actually hit a hypersonic missile. You don't win wars this way. You can't be. You got to be smart if you want to win a war, and that's why he never wins. He'll never win.
So you've talked about the Kinzhal. They're also sending drones, and you've reported that they send a lot of drones in to distract the Ukrainian radars, so that they're confused. They use up whatever missile defense rockets they have, and then whatever else is coming in from Russia is being very effective. Now, how many missile attacks is Russia using every day, every night? I mean, I'm reading your reports, and all over Ukraine. It's not just on hydroelectric plants. It's the electric infrastructure. You reported that 80% of Ukraine was in the dark. I don't know how they recover from this. You mentioned they're blowing up factories where weapons are produced, where material and tanks and other weapons are being repaired. They're blowing these up regularly. How many a night, and where are these strikes taking place?
Well, we don't always hear from the Russian side what kind of missile went in, or whether it was a drone. But it's hard to say. I don't think they send in a lot of Kinjals because they're very expensive. Take time to manufacture one. But probably one, at least one every night. And then there are the Iskander, which is another hypersonic, which they seem to be sending those in combination. And then they'll also send in their drones. The reason for these drones is that some of them are decoys. And as you said, they waste their rockets on those. But some of them are also, I believe, used to get a signal from the air defense system, which would be able to locate, so that you can locate the system. So it's all pretty complicated.
Okay. Are they even hitting like Kiev and Odessa, which are the two of the largest cities in Ukraine?
Yeah, they are. They're hitting those pretty often. Although there was a long hiatus where they didn't hit Kiev for about a month, and then all of a sudden, blam blam, every night it was they're hitting it. And of course, after the Crocus City Hall terror attack, then they really started hitting Ukraine, that is Kiev, pretty often.
Well, let me ask you this. You mentioned earlier, and you've repeated this, that Russia does not attack civilian targets, apartment buildings, shopping centers, although you have reported they've attacked shopping centers that have been taken over by Ukrainian military. There's got to be collateral damage. I mean, people have to die, civilians, from these massive missile strikes. Tell me a little bit about that, the type of weapons they're using. And then the latest thing, they have these 500, 1,000, 1,500 kilogram bombs that they're dropping, that there's no protection from these things. Talk to me a little bit about those.
Well, Foreign Minister Kuleba in Ukraine recently made a rather astounding statement. He said, "We are getting hit with these bombs, and these bombs are hitting us not just in the rear, but right on the battlefield. And we're losing a lot of men, and we just can't keep up with this." I don't know why he said that, because they want us to think that they're tough guys, and they're going to win somehow. They're going to win, but that last statement kind of blew his cover, because he's really scared. I mean, these guys are really scared that they're not going to be able to fight. I mean, they can send any number of men out to the battlefield, but if the aircraft get the coordinates, then they're going to let these bombs drift in there. The bombs are equipped with something called a glide and correction module, and that enables that bomb to glide at least 40 kilometers. And so when the pilot releases the bomb, the pilot isn't anywhere near the air defenses. He's not going to get hurt. The plane's not going to get hurt. And this is why they're almost invincible. They've got the Kinjals, can't take those down, and the bombs, can't take those down either. The bombs come in three traditional sizes: 500 kg of explosive is the smallest. Then you go up to 1,000 kg, and then finally 1,500 kg. Those are the traditional ones, but they've added something. They've added one now that's 3,000 kg, several tons of explosive, and those things blast through. Well, they're all big enough to blast through many of the bunkers. And the bunkers are where you often find the mercenaries. Of course, they call them mercenaries. They're not really mercenaries. They're from NATO. These are actually officers of NATO. And if they could prove that there are officers of NATO there, that would escalate the war quite a bit. It would be a wider war. It would be a World War III, perhaps. But they're hitting these guys so hard that I don't know why anybody would any mercenary or any NATO member would actually go in there, because you're going to get killed. And it's not just you said shopping centers. There's also hotels that are taken over by the government, and schools. Lately, they've hit schools, but of course, schools aren't open at night. So this is when the missile goes in there and blows up these mercenaries and blows them sky high. Uh, it's a slaughterhouse, really.
Yeah. So, what are your comments? And I don't think you usually report on this. The increased number of drone attacks and terror attacks on Russian infrastructure. Do you get information on this as well? What are your thoughts on that? Because
I of course had promised my readers that they will get reports on mostly missile strikes and drone strikes, but I do throw in a lot of bad news as well. And there have been strikes. Oil refineries have been hit. A manufacturing plant for drones has been kind of hit. Actually, what they hit was nothing more than a dormitory. People died, but they kept that assembly line rolling. It never stopped. So it really wasn't a major strategic strike.
you know, I'm just reading today. I'm looking at RT right now. Several drones hit the nuclear power plant in Zaporozhye,
Yeah.
and at the same time, there's been daily drone attacks and attempts to invade the Belgorod region, which is on the border with Russia.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, with all of these massive attacks, how can Ukraine continue to hit these places that Russia has been trying to protect for all these months, especially Belgorod and Zaporozhye?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also Bryansk. Bryansk is another Russian city near Belgorod, and they get hit a lot. But also, a lot of the missiles and drones that are sent in there to do damage are shot down. Most of them are shot down, but you can't shoot them all down. The other day, I read that 193 strikes were shot down, either missiles or drones from Ukraine. So they're doing an excellent job, but I mean, there's just so many. You know, when you swarm a target, that's very hard to deal with.
Yeah, I'm living in Crimea, in Yalta. We're pretty far, probably beyond the reach of everything they have right now. But Crimea, the bridge, the area of the bridge at Kerch, Sevastopol, the home port of the Black Sea Naval Fleet, has been under attack many times with dozens and dozens of drones. As you said, many of them are shot down, but some are getting through.
Yeah.
And you rarely read that in the Russian mainstream media. I want to put your Substack up on the screen here so that people can follow you if they're not aware already of your Substack. They can see it right there on the screen, donhank.substack.com. And there you can find your daily missile strikes all over Russia. And I encourage people to go and to subscribe to your Substack, because you are the only person I know of who is providing these reports, not from the United States, but from Russia and Ukraine, that are not part of the Western mainstream media reporting. All right, I want to shift gears. In today's Substack, you said um, the power of resistance in the Middle East. Tell me a little bit about what you know is happening in the Middle East, and what do you mean by the power of resistance? It doesn't look like anything can stop Israel.
Oh no, that's not true. There's a lot going on, and we don't hear about it because, I mean, this is bad news for Israel if we want to make Israel look good. So we're missing out on a lot of news. I ran an article translation from a site called Al Hamadek. Uh, and this was really an eye opener for me. I had no idea that this was happening. There was a settlement, illegal. They're all illegal. These settlements uh, called Kiryat Shmona, and this settlement was quite large. It was 23,000 inhabitants, and Hezbollah from the north, from Lebanon, kept firing missiles into this place. They kind of probably indiscriminately. I guess they killed, you know, a fair number of civilians and blew up a lot of places, places of business and homes, and every one of those 23,000 inhabitants left. It was their home. They lived there. These were probably swanky homes because the settlers they're rich people mostly, and they got their land for free by stealing it. But then they built these elaborate homes, these nice homes, and they had businesses in there. And eventually, after enough rockets came in from Hezbollah, they had to close up shop. And in fact, the government said, time to get out. And the government declared an evacuation. And that's just one of several. Now, the latest article I read about these attacks and how they caused evacuations said that at least 60,000 settlers have left. This would be in the north because the missiles don't go that far. But it's really amazing. And that's costing a lot of people a lot of money. Imagine you're thrown out of your house, you get no insurance for it. Every dollar that you spent on improvements in that house, gone forever. You'll never go. Of course, they think that they'll go back someday, but I don't think they'll go back someday. So that's Hezbollah. That's only one of five. Hezbollah is only one of the five resistance fronts. There's one in Iraq, the Iraqi resistance. It's called Hashd al-Shabi, or Popular Mobilization Front in English. There's one in Syria, the pro-Assad groups. They're very active too. They're going around firing missiles at the U.S. bases. Then there is, of course, Hezbollah, as I said before, and Hamas. Of course, we all know that. And the Houthis. The Houthis are doing a tremendous job. I don't know how many Americans realize this. The Houthis in Yemen are firing missiles at ships. And these are mostly ships going to Israel that are headed to the port of Eilat on the Red Sea side. And it's at the point now that their business is down 50% there. They're losing lots of money off of that. This port is receiving automobiles, and their number of automobiles that get in there now are almost none. So that's a big bite out of their economy. I don't remember if I've hit all the different five, but there are five resistance groups, and they're not very well coordinated. Each one knows that their main goal is to stop the genocide and to prompt Israel to open the door to the aid. Those are the goals, and each one just does what they have to do to
Yeah,
achieve that.
I think you and others have reported that the Houthis have struck United States,
Mm.
British Royal Navy ships, I'm talking destroyers, and other frigates um, in the Red Sea. And
Mhm.
as you mentioned, what this is doing is disrupting imports and exports from Israel.
Mhm.
And I've reported on this with Dmitry Laskaris that the Israeli economy has been severely hurt. You
Mhm.
mentioned at the port, they had to lay off half the workers at the port. There was no work for them. Another part of what's hindering the economy in Israel is so many people, reserves have been called up to join the IDF, that companies and businesses are really depleted in terms of how many employees they have to continue business. So these five fronts that you talked about, and that's in addition to Hamas, are being very effective in their own way of causing Israel headaches along those five different fronts. Um, Dmitry Laskaris has been there several times, and he's reporting that there have been several million Israelis who have fled the country because of attacks, even on Tel Aviv and other major cities. So they're
Mhm.
very frightened. Um, I want to ask you another question about your Substack. Um, I put up on the screen how people can find it. Is this a paywall? Do people have to pay to be able to read your Substack?
No, I've been offered by the company to, in fact, several people have tried to give me money, and I didn't know what the terms would be there. I didn't know if I would have to, because when you put up a paywall, a lot of people can't read your stuff, and that's what I would be afraid of. I don't want to shut anybody out, and as long as I'm getting my Social Security, I'm okay.
Yeah, we're of the same mentality. Ever since I've been doing documentaries and blogs, I've always felt that people need to get that information. And if I wanted them to pay, too many people would not read or watch what I was producing. And like you, I'm on Social Security and small pension, um, and I'm okay as well. Well,
Mhm.
Don, I want to thank you so much. And again, I want to encourage people to go to your Substack page. It's donhank .substack.com, where they can read your daily reports, and they can also request to be on your email list to get updates in their email, such as what I get from you and have been getting from you in a long time. How can people um, how can people request to be on your email list?
Oh, well, my email list is for people who haven't subscribed yet. I hope that more people will subscribe and I can cut that down a little bit because I'm up to my limit. MSN doesn't give you that many emails per day. So you can subscribe. Just go to the hit the subscribe button on the Substack.
And to reiterate, they can subscribe, and you're not asking to be supported financially. You're providing this as a free service.
Mhm. Yeah, well, I appreciate your helping me get my message out.
Well, I think it's really important. It's been extremely important to me to read your daily reports because I don't get this kind of information anywhere else. It
Not
the
even in Russia.
not that's what I'm saying. Not even RT or Sputnik or TASS
No,
is
no.
reporting on this stuff. So I really want to encourage people to subscribe to your Substack channel because it's the only place they can get these verifiable information about these massive military strikes Russia has been conducting, well, since almost the very beginning, but certainly since the Crocus City Hall massacre last month on March 22nd. Don, thank you so much for joining me again. We'll look forward to doing an update.
Thank you.